Hey everyone, this is Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 85 of Album of the Day, in which today's review is going to be a pretty big review, mostly because I'm here to review an album that I've pretty much decided is my number one album of 2015. So this is definitely going to be a pretty big review for my channel, let's and also before we get into today's review, I know I've worn this shirt before, but I just don't remember mentioning that this is a shirt for the classic Star Wars character R2-D2. One of the droids in there. You'll love Star Wars, and R2-D2, of course, is one of my favorite characters. But anyway, aside from that, let's get on to the review. Today I'm going to talk about a singer-songwriter and musician who used to be the former drummer for one of my favorite indie bands of all time, Fleet Foxes. His real name is Josh Tillman, but his new moniker, since now he left Fleet Foxes a few years ago, is Father John Misty. He released his debut album back in 2012 called Fear Fun, started to get some critical acclaim through that and some of that stuff, and then in 2015 he put out his sophomore album under this moniker, okay, we have 118 minutes on here, just making sure. So I'm here to review his sophomore album released in February of 2015, last year. The album is called I Love You, Honeybear, and I know this one has gotten quite a bit of acclaim from a lot of people on YouTube, like The Needle Drop and people like that, have topped this as one of the best records of 2015, and I am pretty much among them. I was just, my mind was split in half when, my mind was split in two when I pretty much found out that this was my number one record of the year. There's a lot of records from last year that I think were really good that I'm planning on reviewing pretty soon, so stay tuned for reviews of that. Anyway, that's what the case looks like. Some very provocative, some graphic, but yet very, very cool artwork. A bunch of things going on here. There's a red tiger on there. Things like some cheetahs playing what looks like a guitar and a guitarone, members of a mariachi band, and some sort of skeleton with a trumpet, and even a graphic picture of of what looks like a wolf eating a baby. Pretty graphic right there. And then here's the artwork. Basically all these different characters just going crazy in this bar, which I think kind of fits in with kind of the aesthetic of the record somehow. And then of course, this is kind of like a pop-up. Really, really awesome packaging on here. This definitely deserves a album packaging of the year award for me. And this thing, it's huge. It's like a poster. In fact, I haven't even looked at all the photos that are in here. My goodness. Yeah, my goodness, this is huge. And there are the lyrics on there. And of course the liner notes. So it's like a giant poster in here. And what's really hilarious is that Father John Misty definitely has the ability to make people laugh with his songs, but I think he also had the ability to make them laugh by including this in the album packaging. I love you, Honeybear, exercises for listening. These are all like a joke, because these are pretty much only things some sort of jerk-off would do. But the narrator but pretty much the protagonist of this whole record's pretty much a jerk, so it kind of makes sense. So it has like exercises for all the tracks. Yeah, but of course these are all a joke, because you'd probably get arrested if you did some of this stuff that, like, the protagonist of this album would do. And anyway, there's a CD, which is very colorful, so this one definitely is my #1 album packaging of the year. Like, that definitely gets that award. So yeah, that's the really just, thoughtful packaging for I Love You, Honeybear, which just, makes the listening experience all that more magical, I think, looking at this artwork, because it kind of fits in with the aesthetic of the record. Anyway, let's talk about some of the songs on here. So the opener is the title track, I Love You, Honeybear, and right away it just, pulls you in with these string arrangements that sound really beautiful, full. So, like, there's definitely some very kind of lush music arrangements going on. But, what really makes this song stand out are those hilarious lyrics. Like, right off the bat, this is an album kind of, the protagonist of this album is kind of a jerk that, like, so, like, the title, I Love You, Honeybear, sounds cutesy, but that is not, but the song itself is not. In reality, it's like, very, like, there's some lyrics, I mean, what I really like about this track is that very few artists can just blow up with their lyrics and, just, let out their humor and just blow up and, gutsily say, I love you, Honeybear. I don't know if gutsily is a word, but, you get the idea of what I'm talking about here with this track. And then, the next track on here, Chateau Lobby, #4, in C for Two Virgins. It's like a song about, like, Tillman's, like, first, like, sexual encounter, how just alarmed he felt when, it was the first time he was, that in love with someone, and talking about how, this girl, like, took off early to cheat her way through film school, and like, he's like in a chateau lobby, so, like, he says, so he, like, says, like, people are boring, but here's something else. It's like, so this thing that kind of all of a sudden kind of hits him after people seem very ordinary to him. And musically, the song has a bit of a mariachi band feel to it, with the trumpets and the violins, and even the guitars kind of sound that way too. But it's solely the strings and the horns that kind of remind me of something I hear in the middle of Mexico or something like that. Like in the middle of the street in a little town in Mexico or something like that. But the next song on this album, it would have to be my least favorite track on the record, and that song is True Affection. I understand, I do applaud Tillman for going for this kind of more electronic music background here with this track, but at the same time, something about it just doesn't really work for me, even though I do respect how he tried to make it sound as subtle as possible. Sounds like something maybe the Postal Service would do, except, the Postal Service have done songs that are like 1,000 times better than this one. And plus the lyrics don't have enough references to make me laugh or pull me in, so this is one track that I tend to skip over every time I listen to this album now. But you know, that's just my opinion. But I do love the next track on here, The Night Josh Tillman Came to Our Apartment. That song is just hilarious. Like, probably some of my favorite lyrics in this song would have to be some of the lyrics at the end where, you know, Tillman finds this girl naked with her best friend in the tub. They sang Silent Nights in 3 parts, which was fun. Until she said she sounds just like Sarah Vaughan. And also that line, I hate that soulful affectation white girls put on. Oh my god, that, you know, just kills me. Like, this song has kind of a, you know, kind of 60s pop feel to it. Has with this 12-string guitar and this cute little glockenspiel playing these little notes. And I even heard the, like, unusual inclusion of a sitar in the middle of the song. So Tillman also has the ability of blending in unusual instruments. And I have seen the video for this song. I think it really fit in with the song really nicely. And next I have the song When You're Smiling and Astride Me, which has kind of a soul feel to it, which I think this album is has a bunch of very unusual, you know, sounds for Tillman on here. Like, you know, so like for example, kind of the soulful feel of this track. But at the same time, the lyrics, you know, this isn't your typical soul song. I mean, it sounds like that, especially because of those female backup singers that occur in there. But the lyrics actually, you know, don't sound like anything you typically hear in soul music. It's still sounds like typical Josh Tillman. Been on here. And what I do like about the female backup singers on this track is, you know, on paper it sounds awful, but you know, the results actually sound really good on here. Like, you know, backup singers can always be hit or miss for me. Sometimes they sound really good, but other times there are some songs where I like one part of it, but don't care for another part of it. Like the song Hotel Chelsea Nights from Ryan Adams' album Love Is Hell. I like the lyrics on that song. They do talk about a man who's tired of living in this old hotel and feeling depressed and wants a new life, but I wasn't a fan of the female backup singers. I thought they just, you know, left a slightly bad taste in my ears. But on here, but I hear the backup singers work really well, so, you know, I think it's a song where they actually work, even though on paper it sounds like something that would probably be something that would probably leave bad taste in my ears. And then next you follow that with the song Nothing Good Ever Happens at the Thirsty Crow, which is a song dealing, you know, it's Tillman, you know, in this song Tillman is like in a club, like some sort of bar in Los Angeles, because that's pretty much where he lives now. And he like talks about how, you know, this person in his life, you know, does something way more impressive than the Georgia Crawl. And I absolutely love the line of, she blackens pages like a Russian romantic and gets down more often than a blow-up doll. I think, you know, Tillman tends to get very, you know, ridiculously funny there. You know, this is the kind of record where whether you're laughing or not, you definitely see how there's something outrageously, you know, hilarious being found on this album. And I do like how this song kind of changes a little bit with both its parts. The first half is like kind of a country folk kind of thing, and then the second half's more jazzy with this clarinet and, you know, all this stuff. And then there's the song Strange Encounter, which actually kind of does remind me of Fleet Foxes a little bit. But at the same time, still a really good song. Really beautiful song. It's really just, just soaring harmonies. And, it also has this cool little fuzzy guitar solo in the middle as well. And it's basically a song about, how there's someone in your life that you don't want them to be your last strange encounter, because you encounter someone in your life that seems really strange, and you just don't want them to be your last encounter of that. Not as lyrically detailed as some of the other songs on here, but I do see how there's obviously a big message that the song is trying to, put out. And then there's the song The Ideal Husband, which is basically a song about a man who's anything but that type of person. I love how this song just shows, kind of a sense of drama. This is definitely one song where Tillman just gets all dramatic with the lyrics and the vocal too. So I think it's garage rock, music thing going on. It really does fit in with kind of the sort of, ferocious attitude of this track. And by the end, he just, blows up and says some of the most ridiculous, things lyrically that I think he would have ever said throughout the album, but yet they work so well. I mean, he does, there is a lyric at the end about putting a baby in the oven. That's pretty dramatic right there. And so basically this person, and at the end he says, wouldn't I make the ideal husband? But, he's really being sarcastic there, because he's mentioning how he's spent all his money getting drunk and high, and he's just really depressed, and he said a lot of terrible things, and he just has a lot of regret, and he feels kind of sorry for himself. But probably the best song on the record would have to be the song Bored in the USA. Just the lyrics just crack me up, especially that line at the end, like, save me, white Jesus, I'm bored in the USA. My God, that line, especially the second half tends to, make me laugh a lot here. It's a pretty stripped down song, just a piano, a string section, but Tillman did also include the unusual addition of some comedy laugh tracks. Sounds like something you'd hear in a comedy show. And on paper, again, this is something that on paper doesn't sound too good, but it actually really works here on this song, and definitely just a great track, very memorable. The next track on here is called Holy. But then there's a word in the title that I'm not going to say, because I'm trying to keep it clean here. But this is a song that was written the day Tillman and his wife were married. So this is a song kind of just, there's a lot going through his mind when he's finally gotten, engaged with somebody who has been really such a strange encounter with him. So he, mentioned, so a lot of things go through his mind, like Holocausts, Bohemian Nightmare, Dust Bowl Chic, incest dreams, just a lot going through his mind, and, really just, again, definitely a very big highlight on this record have to be this song. And I do really like that little interlude in the middle, with the strings, getting all dramatic, and I hear that and I picture this huge war scene going on, so it's pretty dramatic. They put it in there as if there's some sort of war going on. So it kind of fits in with this song being about basically what's going through his mind and all that. And then it closes with the song I Went to the Store One Day, which this is one example of Tillman making the most mundane situation in life sound so sounds so interesting. Like, he talks about how he met his wife in a store while buying coffee and cigarettes. Ritz, and just making this whole like very, very interesting and funny song out of it. And it closes the album pretty stripped down to just a guitar, a string section, and a mandolin. But yet, it's really the lyrics that make it, such a, that make it, a pretty, funny way to close the album with again, a song full of very sarcastic, phrases. So yeah, there you go. I just mentioned a lot of the reasons why this is my favorite record of 2015 as of right now. So right now, I recently did a review of Jason Isbell's latest album. That one would have to be my third favorite of this year. My second favorite would have to be that new Dawes album, All Your Favorite Bands, which I never reviewed Dawes before, but I'd like to one day because I think they're a really good band. But yeah, this is a great album, and wasn't really a huge fan of his debut album, Fear Fun, but I absolutely love his second album right here, I Love You, Honeybear. I think he's really gotten better at what he's. I think Tillman's really just gotten better and set the bar really high with this album here. And it's produced by Jonathan Wilson, who's also done work on Dawes' first two albums and on Conor Oberst's most recent album. And of course he did work with him on his debut, as well as this one. And I think Jonathan Wilson's production sounds really nice on here. Very lush stuff going on in here. And of course, but what really makes the album stands out is that if you're tired of your indie music being so much about just being so serious all the time and making a rule that you can't make anything funny or something like that, if you're tired of indie music just being so much about that and getting a little pretentious, well then I do recommend you check out this record. This is the record for those kind of people, I think. So yeah, this is my review of I Love You, Honeybear. Awesome album by Father John Misty. See you for episode 86.